Welcome to the Retaliation Realm channel. We hope you enjoy today's story. Wow, a decade really has left its mark on you, huh? Checkless, a single woman in her 40s, quite the spectacle. As we reunited after years, my ex-husband couldn't resist a jab. This was the man who left me for his mistress, leaving me shattered a decade ago. He dismissed any possibility of fatherhood. I had hoped Daniele might have softened him, but alas, some traits linger. Even after all these years, he still sees me as inferior, dredging up old wounds with his insults. Swiftly, I ended the encounter, unwilling to subject myself to further indignity. In an unexpected twist, I found a subtle vengeance against him. I'm Elena Santos, 30 years young, thriving in my career at a publishing house. Despite the busyness, life is fulfilling. Daniel, my husband of 3 years, adds to the joy. We've been married for 3 years now, yet the pitter-patter of little feet still eludes us. It's not that we're not trying, it's just not happening. At the onset of our marriage, I was eager to start a family immediately. The idea of motherhood, of nurturing a little one, had always been a dream. But reality hit hard, and despite 3 years passing, there was no sign of a baby. Initially, I brushed it off, thinking it would happen when the Daniele was right. But as Daniele marched on, anxiety crept in. Why wasn't it happening? We weren't using any form of contraception. I'll never forget the moment I realized the implications. What if it's me? What if I'm the one who's unable to conceive? The thought was paralyzing, threatening to strip away my identity as a woman. Unable to confide in my husband, I made the decision to visit a gynecologist. The verdict was crushing: natural conception was off the table, and a barrage of tests lay ahead. Some had to be Daniele'd with my cycle, others after it had passed. As someone unfamiliar with this terrain, the 2 months leading up to the tests were grueling. I approached the appointment with a silent plea in my heart, nervously rubbing my cold hands together as I entered the examination room. The doctor delivered the verdict. "We've conducted a thorough examination, Miss Johnson, and found nothing out of the ordinary." So there's nothing wrong with me? I asked, hoping for a straightforward answer. "That's correct. There's no discernible issue. Your body is perfectly capable of conceiving." Then why hasn't it happened? In that moment, a single notion dawned on me. The doctor seemed to share the same inkling, his expression tinged with gravity. "Have you considered having your husband tested as well?" "So, you're suggesting infertility might lie with my husband, not me?" "That's correct. It's not widely known, but approximately half of infertility cases stem from issues with the male partner, half. It's common to assume infertility is primarily the woman's issue, but as you can see, that's not always the case. We found no abnormalities in your tests, Miss Johnson, so there's a chance it could be your husband. While the likelihood isn't negligible, ultimately, we won't know until we investigate further." I absorbed the doctor's words in silence. I had always assumed female infertility was more prevalent. As the doctor suggested, I made the decision to have Daniel, my husband, undergo testing as well. That evening, as soon as Daniel returned from work, I broached the topic. "Hey, Daniel, would you be willing to accompany me to the women's clinic I've been visiting on our next day off?" "Huh? Why do I need to go?" Daniel asked, clearly caught off guard. "Well, today I received the results from my infertility test and everything came back normal." So it's not just me?" Daniel's expression shifted to surprise as I explained what I had learned from the doctor. Daniel's expression hardened, and he released a heavy sigh. "Are you implying that I'm the reason we can't conceive?" "I'm not implying anything, but the possibility can't be dismissed. So, I think it's important for you to get tested." "Don't be ridiculous. Me, infertile? I'm a man. It's impossible for me to be the problem." But the doctor mentioned it could be an issue on the man's end too. Don't put stock in everything some quack doctor spouts. Clearly, the issue lies with you, the woman. You're blaming me for our inability to conceive when it's your problem. Daniel's voice escalated as he forcefully hurled a cushion at me. It struck my head, sending a jolt of pain. "Ouch. I'm telling you it's your fault, got it? You're insinuating that I'm the reason for our infertility when I'm not. You're jumping to conclusions." I was simply discussing possibilities, nothing more. There's no basis for that assumption. Don't pin our infertility on me. I'll even report this to my mother, okay? "No, please don't," I pleaded. Besides my father-in-law, my mother-in-law harbors doubts about her only son and holds a negative opinion of me. I've always tried to minimize our interactions and avoid upsetting her. Despite my efforts, my husband wasted no Daniele contacting his mother, painting me as the culprit. Hey, Mom, Mary's accusing me of being infertile. Normally, if there's a problem, it's the woman's fault, right? You agree, don't you, Mom? It's ridiculous. I'm fed up with being blamed. Daniel deliberately spoke loudly so I could overhear him as he conversed with my mother-in-law. Unable to stomach his words, I retreated to my room. That day, Daniel never offered an apology, and his demeanor towards me grew even colder from the following day. It had been a year and a half since our marriage, and though our conversations had dwindled compared to our newlywed days, his newfound indifference was unprecedented. Another year and a half slipped by, yet our dynamic remained unchanged. Today, as he nonchalantly lifted his breakfast to his lips, he casually remarked, "Your cooking is still as bland as ever. How do you manage to mess up something as simple as breakfast?" "But I made your favorite French toast today." "I thought you enjoy delicious French toast," I replied, taken aback by his criticism. "Who would willingly eat something this terrible?" "Sorry if you don't like it. You don't have to eat it." "Huh? Why do you want me to go to work hungry?" "Well, it's not like." "Fine then, since I'm grabbing breakfast from the convenience store, you're covering it, all right?" My husband abruptly rose from his seat, snatching my wallet from my bag with more force than necessary. Extracting a $50 bill, he pocketed it without a second thought. "Wait a minute, $50 is too much." "Huh? You got a problem with that?" "I'm just tired of choking down your terrible cooking. Let's call it payment for this week's breakfast." "But that money was for my hair salon appointment this weekend." "It's absurd, you're infertile, so don't waste money on frivolous things to improve your health. Do some exercise, you idiot." With a contemptuous glance, my husband exited the living room. As soon as I heard the door shut, tears streamed down my cheeks. Why do I have to endure this? A wave of frustration and sorrow engulfed me. Before I realized it, I had been crying in the same spot for 30 minutes, much like I had been doing for days. Then, one evening, my husband returned home from work with unusual cheerfulness. I wondered if something good had happened. Just as I pondered, he addressed me with a radiant smile. "Mary, I want a divorce." "What? Divorce? What are you saying? I'm going to be a father?" "Huh? A father? I don't understand." "She's pregnant. We decided to raise the child together, so please, let's get a divorce." "She's pregnant." His words sounded like a cruel joke. All I could grasp was the betrayal he had inflicted. No matter how I sliced it, he had been unfaithful. Tears clouding my vision, I mustered the courage to ask, Is that baby really yours, Daniel?" "Huh? What are you talking about? Are you still hung up on the infertility thing? We've been married for 3 years, and no child." "It's not me. You're so obstinate. You're just envious because you can't conceive. Well, tough luck. You're the one who's infertile." With those words, our argument escalated. He shoved me aside, demanding I leave. It stung even more knowing that the apartment was solely in his name. If one of us had to depart, it would inevitably be me. As I reluctantly gathered my belongings, he tossed the pre-prepared divorce papers in my direction. "Infertile woman, get out. Why are you still here? The alimony can come later. I'll leave even without your prompting, but I never imagined you could be so heartless. Say what you will. I'm reveling in my newfound happiness. Unlike you, I'm going to be a parent." He laughed with a mocking tone. The man standing before me was a stranger, no longer the Daniel I once adored. Leaving the apartment, I secured a temporary rental near my workplace. Scouring for a permanent residence, I eventually settled into a new apartment with only the essentials, clothing and basics. I juggled furnishing my new abode while managing the demands of work. However, the $30,000 alimony from my ex-husband and his mistress provided a financial cushion, easing the transition into my fresh start. Over the next 5 years, I threw myself into work, determined to leave my painful past behind. During this Daniele, a mutual acquaintance at work introduced me to Matthew Parker. John, 2 years my junior, possessed a warm and generous spirit. Like me, he had weathered a divorce marred by his ex-wife's infidelity. Neither of us bore children, our circumstances mirroring one another's. This shared bond forged a deep understanding between us, eventually blossoming into romance. After a year of courtship, we joyfully exchanged vows, becoming husband and wife. Now Sarah Parker, I threw myself even deeper into my career. Yet, on weekends, my husband and I relished outings, embracing our newfound life with occasional trips and adventures. To my astonishment, on my 37th birthday, I discovered I was pregnant just 6 months into our marriage. The child we had longed for arrived with unexpected ease, tears brimming in his eyes, my husband celebrated with heartfelt joy. "Mary, thank you. I'm overjoyed." "I am too. I'm beyond happy. I never imagined I'd become a mother. Despite our age, I'll stand by you every step of the way. Together we'll tackle whatever comes our way." "Thank you, John. I'm truly grateful to embark on this journey to parenthood with you." True to his word, John stood by me throughout my pregnancy, shouldering all the household responsibilities we once shared and handling all the shopping. 7 months later, our daughter arrived safely, bringing unparalleled joy into our lives. As Daniele flew by, Lisa turned 3, her chatter filling our home with warmth. On a day when John was away, Lisa and I ventured to the park. While she played in the sandbox, a familiar voice caught my attention. "Is that Mary? Daniel?" "Indeed, it's Mary. It's been quite some Daniele." Standing before me was my ex-husband, Daniel, the one who had once abandoned me. His grin widened as he drew closer, scrutinizing my expression. "What brings you here, wearing that despondent look? Waiting for someone to sweep you off your feet? That's absurd. Please, just leave me alone." "My, how you've aged over the years, a single woman in her 40s. You seem rather downcast." My ex-husband clapped his hands together and erupted into laughter. His presence felt like a sudden rupture, shattering the newfound happiness I had just begun to embrace. Why did he have to show up now of all Danieles? It was because of him that I endured so much pain. I couldn't forgive him. Today, I resolved to unleash all the pent-up emotions within me. I rose to my feet, the anger boiling inside me beyond control. "The root cause of all this chaos is you." Just as I was about to unleash my fury, my daughter tugged at my clothes, her expression puzzled. "Mommy, who is this man?" "Ah, Lisa, Mom's friend." "Mom's friend? Hi." As my daughter addressed me as Mom, Daniel's eyes widened in shock. He rushed over to me, a bewildered expression on his face. "What's happening here?" "She just called you Mom." "Yes, this is Lisa, my daughter." "What? That can't be right. You were infertile. I told you this a decade ago, didn't I?" "The issue wasn't with me. I even got tested to prove it." "So, this child, she's undoubtedly yours." "Yes, Lisa is unequivocally my daughter, born of me." "No, it's impossible." Daniel's complexion drained of color, his face contorted in disbelief as he staggered backwards. I posed a question to him. "Tell me, are you absolutely certain your children are your own?" "What? What are you implying? Have you ever considered it?" "I've always suspected that you were the reason for our infertility." "Stop it. That's absurd. It's impossible. After all, I'm still raising a child with her." "Well, doesn't that speak volumes? It's not just about who gives birth, but who raises the child. If it doesn't bother you, then there's no doubt that child is mine." "That's preposterous. You deserve to feel the sting of her deception. Why don't you suffer a little?" With a strange cry, Daniel fled, tears streaming down his face. My daughter looked at me bewildered. "Mom, was that man not your friend?" "No, he wasn't. But you know what? I owe him a lot of gratitude." "Wait, why is that?" "Because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have met you, Lisa." "Really? Then do you think he's grateful too?" "That's right, Lisa. You are the most precious gift to both me and your father." I embraced my daughter tightly as she jumped into my arms. I may have been harsh with Daniel, but truthfully, I don't hold much bitterness towards him anymore. His betrayal led me to meet John and Lisa, whom I cherish deeply. It turns out, Daniel confronted his wife about their child later on. She admitted to having affairs with multiple men at the Daniele, choosing Daniel for his stable income. A DNA test revealed Daniel wasn't the biological father, and he discovered he was infertile after undergoing tests. Eventually, they divorced, leaving Daniel devastated and disillusioned with people. He hasn't ventured outside since, with only sporadic visits from his mother-in-law. Losing his job added to his woes, and finding new employment remains elusive. Meanwhile, my career has flourished, culminating in a managerial role. Our income has grown, affording us more family getaways. Witnessing the joy on my daughter's and husband's faces fills me with profound happiness. My choices were never misguided. Through adversity, we've arrived at these blissful days. I refuse to dwell on the past. With my cherished daughter and devoted husband, let's embrace a promising future as a family of 3. Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments. We'll see you on the Retaliation Realm channel.